All right, welcome back, everybody. This was a long homework, wasn't it? It was a tough one. So if you're still here checking your answers or finishing up, pat yourself on the back. Perseverance, bud. Good job, you guys. All right, let's finish this thing, see how we're doing. Remember, this was 3.1.3, problems 345 all the way through 354. Okay, and at 345, we were trying to figure out how many students earned a place on the silver honor roll, right? It was 30% of 920 students. And the technique they said to do to sort of get a good estimate was to make that 100% chart, right? And we did that 100%. You make a bar 0 to 100, and then you go 0 to how many you're talking about. In this case, it was 920 students. Well, 50% is half, so half of 920 is 460. We want to figure out what's 30%. We figured out it's around 230. Well, I'm going to let you in a little secret, okay? We're studying something called the portions web, where we are going to know how to change a percent to a decimal and a percent to a fraction, and all three of those. The portions web looks like this, where you have like a fraction on top, a decimal on the left side, and a percent on the right side. And in the middle, you would either write in words what that is, or draw a picture, or both. Okay? So 1/2 looks like that as a fraction. It's 5/10 as a decimal, and 50% as a percent. Now, the other big thing that you need to know is the word of. What does that mean in math? Of means times. So we're trying to figure out what is 30% of 920 students. Once we learn this, this becomes a simple problem. Why? Because 30% is 30 per 100. And 30 per 100 looks like this. But also, to change a percent to a decimal, all you do is move the decimal 2 spots to the left. To go from a decimal to a percent, you move it 2 spots to the right. So for percent to decimal, it's 2 spots to the left. So that's why 0.5 becomes 50%, or 50% becomes 0.5 or 5/10, right? Which is also 50 hundredths. 50 hundredths is 50 per 100. Cent means 100. So 30% is the same as 0.3, because I move it over 2 spots, it's right there. You can have the 0.30 if you want. Of means times. 30% of 920 is 0.3 times 920. Pretend like there's no decimal and multiply when you multiply decimals. And then you go back and say, how many places did I move the decimal? That 3 was really 0.3. I had to move it 1 spot to pretend it wasn't there to the right. So I move it back 1 spot to get my answer, 276. That's a lot of work, but that is the exact answer. 276 students is 30% of 920. Okay? We had it estimated around 230. Not too bad, right? I think actually 230 was 25%, right? It was half of the 460. So that's the 25%. We wanted 30, so we knew it was going to be bigger than that. Okay? So 276 is the perfect answer. I don't think you had to get the exact answer because we haven't shown you how to do that yet. So if your estimate was anywhere around there, should be bigger than 230, right? It should definitely be smaller than 460. All right, on to the next one. They wanted you to draw one of these 100% blocks and shade in 3/10 and 600ths, and we did that. 3/10 and 600ths is 36 hundredths, right? 8 hundredths okay, is just going to shade in almost one row. So that whole big old thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is that right? All right, and then that, right, these were 10, 20, 30. So half of that is, and then, so it's going to be about 8% looks like that. 800s looks like that. 1700s, it's going to be a little bit bigger than that. I'm not going to draw this again, right? But you would have a whole row shaded in because that's 1000s. And then you'd have 700s, right? 2 past halfway. So 1700s would look like this. And 11/10. 11/10 is bigger than 1. So 11/10, you got to draw 2 of these boxes. Or again, if you could print, okay? And you're shading in a whole box and then 1 row of the next box to get 11/10. So again, these rows are fifths. So if I cut them in half, these rows are tenths. Okay, and a whole row. So, okay, that's what D looks like. All right. All right, 347. This is the gas tank. We're talking about 60 liters. Okay, and we're trying to figure out how many liters 50% full is. So let's draw that picture real quick. So 0%, 100%, 0 liters. And what's a full tank? 60 liters. Okay, so half of that is 50%, which is half of 60, 30 liters. Half of that again is 25%, half of 30 liters, 15 liters. And again, halfway this way, 30 plus 15, 45 liters, 25 plus 50, 75%. Okay, so 50% full, A, boom, we already did it. 50% of 60 liters equals 15 liters. Now, really, I always tell kids to don't just give me an answer sheet, give me the problem and the answer. And this is one of the reasons. Every time you look at this, 50% of 60 liters equals 15, sorry, 30 liters. 30 liters, let's fix that. Man, I'm glad I fixed that. 50% of 60 liters is 30 liters. Every time you look at that, you get smarter. Every time. But if all you wrote was A, 30 liters, you can look at that all day long and not get one little iota smarter, right? Put it together. Write things together that help you. Okay? That's why we do homework, to get better at stuff, right? Okay, 7/10 full. 7/10 is 70%. 70, all right? So 7/10 can be right around here. 7/10 of, and here's something you could write too. What does of mean in math? 7/10 of 60. Okay, when you go to multiply fractions, first off, you say multiplying fractions is easy. And you can make 60 a fraction by doing this. Watch this. It's going to be magic. Watch my hands. I'm going to go fast here. I'm going to go fast. How do I make 60 a fraction? Boom, boom. Put a 1 under it. Put a 1 under any fraction, any whole number, and make it a fraction. All right? You're dividing by 1. Same thing. Means what? And multiplying fractions is easy. Why? Because you multiply straight across the top and straight across the bottom. 7 times 60 is 420. 10 times 1. That's improper. Divide the bottom into the top. 10 into 42 goes 4 times, because that 4 times 10 is 40. Subtract, bring down the 0. 10 goes in. So look at that, and you'll find out when you divide something by 10, you just move the decimal one spot that way. That's a trick you're going to learn later. So 42 on that one. Okay? is means time, is means equal. All right, and again, I'm writing the whole thing out here because I want to see that together, right? 7/10 of 60 liters is 42. So 42 liters, and I'm writing 70% is 0.7. All right, last one on this one, 2/5 full. 2/5. All right, fifth. So that is 2.5 fifths. I can make another one of these and divide it into 5 if I want. Okay, and say this is 5/5. This is 0/5. This is 60 liters, and this is 0 liters. And divide it 5's kind of tough, right? You gotta sandwich that. So 1/5, 2/5. Okay, 60 liters. Okay, and 1/5 of, or 2/5 of 60. Again, multiplying fractions is easy. Who remembers how to turn 60 into a fraction? Do it fast. Ready? Boom, boom. What does of mean? Times. 2 times 60 on top. 1 times 5 on the bottom. How many 5's fit into 12? Right, divide the bottom into the top. That's twice. Bring down to 0, and 5 goes into 20, 24 times. So 2/5 of 60 liters of equals 24 liters. And again, write the whole thing, because every time you look at that, you get smarter. All right, how are you going to group these? 5/7. I'm looking for more sevenths. So I'm putting the 5/7 and the 1/7 together. Thirds, 2/3, 4/3. Any more thirds? Okay. We'll find out. We'll put something else with that later, I think. 1/4. Is there anything to go with the 4th? Well, I'm actually going to put it with the half. Okay. Because 2/4 is 1/2. I'm going to put it with the half. Okay. And I'll go ahead and put the 2/2. The 2/2 is 1 whole. It can really go with anything, right? But what about the fifths? 7/5. Let's put that with the 1/5. And I'm going to put the tenths with that, because 2/5 is, or 2/10 is 1/5. Okay, 5 goes into 10. You see that? 2 goes into 4. 3 goes into what? So I'm going to put the 6 with the thirds. 2/6 is 1/3. That's how I would group it. Okay? All right, next one. $7.75 a day walking dogs for his neighbors. He walks dogs for 12 days. How much money will he make? That's just as simple. We're going 12 times, right? Pretend there's no decimal and multiply. 10, 14, 15, 14, 15. Put a placeholder. 1 times 775 is 775. Add them up. $9,300. But how many places did I move the decimal so I can multiply? I pretended like this was 775 by moving the decimal 2 spots that way to the right. So I have to move the decimal 2 spots back to the left in my answer, right? I went 1, 2, so I'm going to go 1, 2. Okay? And that becomes 93. So 12 of these, 12 dog walks, right? He's making $93. This is my son here, right? My son's doing that. Made a fortune walking dogs since he was 12. He's 18 now. He's got more money saved than me. All right, on to 350. Okay, again, we're using the hundreds, the percent thing to shade in 700ths. Okay, and write it as a percent. So 700ths. You'd write that as a fraction, 0.07. And to go from decimal to a percent, I said fraction, decimal, you move it 2 spots that way. So that equals 7%, like that. Okay? Now, when you shade that in, you have your 100% block. Remember, this is 20, 40, 60, 80, right? And I break these in like this. So now I have 10% in each row. 7%, I'm cut half of one row plus 2 more blocks. That's what that looks like. Okay. On B, we're talking about shade in 7/10 and write the portion as a fraction. 7/10. I can write that as a decimal and a fraction, right? And if you close your eyes and I say 7/10, you don't know if I said that or that, do you? They're the same thing, and you say them the same way. So 7/10, again, I go down. If I want to draw, I have 5 lines here. This is how I'm doing it when I want to do that quick 100% or hundreds block, right? And then each line becomes 1/5, and then I cut it in half, and each line becomes 1/10. And if I want to do the percent, I just do the same thing the other way. Boom, 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 right? Got to have 10 lines or 10 columns. But it just said 7/10, so I need 7 rows. So everything above the bottom 3, right? 7/10, that's almost the whole thing, right? That makes sense. 70%. Okay, did we write it everything? All right. 28% on C. 28%. Okay, boom, 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 boom. Okay, and so 28, 10, 20, and then I'm going past the 5. That'd be 25 when I cover half of that third row. And then 1, 2, 3 more boxes. That is 28%. And it says to write it as a fraction. Percent means per 100. You really got to write that somewhere on your paper, on your folder somewhere. Cent equals 100. So percent equals per 100. So 3% equals 3 per 100. I sound like a cat yet? Sorry, dad joke. All right, 28%, 31.5%, and write that as a decimal. So I'm doing the same thing here, but now I'm doing 3 rows, and then I'm doing one of the boxes, and then half of a box. Okay, and 31.5% to change that percent to a decimal, 2 spots that way, boom, boom, 315. That's all you got to do on that one. Okay. All right, we're going kind of fast on this because this was a long one. 18% and 7/10. Explain which is larger, showing pictures. Again, we already did that. All right. If I draw the picture of the 100, that's 18%. Not even 2 rows. 7/10 is 7 rows. 352. Explain 78.5% would look like on a 100% block. Write it as a decimal. Again, to go decimal, move it that way twice. Boom, boom. 0.785. And I want to draw that block. This is how fast you do it. Okay. People say, oh, my printer doesn't work. I can't do the work. Never say can't. You know you can. Okay. How long has it been taking me to draw these 100 blocks, right? 78.5%. All right. So I got my 10 rows now. Okay, now if I want my 10 columns, I'm going to go ahead and say that's 5. I'm not going to draw those, but I'll do these 5. Okay, and if I'm doing 78.5%, I'm doing 7 full rows. Okay, and then I'm going 8 boxes. And 0.5 is half, so you can do a half with a diagonal, you could do it in half with a vertical line or a horizontal line. All right, that's 78.5% on a hundreds block. Okay, percent block. What is the sum of 2 halves and 3/3? Well, that's 1 plus 1 is 2. All right, represent your in different ways. You can draw pizzas. There's a pizza cut in half. You're taking both pieces. There's a pizza cut in thirds. You're taking all 3 pizzas, right? That works. Okay, all sorts of ways to do that. You can do a percent if you want, but remember those third percent's kind of tricky. But anyway, that's 100%, 100%, right? And we figured out that last one, we got to add all these things that he wanted to buy and see if $10 was enough. So I got 3 9s, that's 27, plus 2, 29. You guys see what I did there? Rather than add and trying to keep track, I just did 3 times 9 and then added the 2. So 27 plus 2 is 29. All right, and I'm going to put this 2 with this 6 and make 8. So now I got 3 times 8 is 24, plus that 2 I carried, 26. Little trick for you. Make it a little bit easier when you're adding real big numbers like that. So 2 and 1 is 3, plus 5 is 8. I'm going to do that 2 next is 10, 11. 11.69, $10 ain't going to cut it, is it? All right, so he does not have enough money. What can he buy and how much will it cost? Well, he could subtract the 189, right? If he subtracted the 189, he would have enough. It would be $9.80. And what was the 189? Was that the ketchup or mustard? Yeah, so this is no ketchup. Sorry, ketchup fans. All right, no ketchup gets you $9.80. He could subtract the mustard. You started with $11.69 minus $2.89. Remember, line them up. And that would be $8.80 for no mustard. All right. Long, tough homework. Congratulations. Pat yourself on the back. You did a good job. Tonight's homework will be much easier.